Please welcome Porter Airlines President Kevin Jackson and Breeze Airways Vice President of Marketing and Communications, Angela Vargo, in conversation with Skift Airlines editor Gordon Smith.
Angela, Kevin, welcome to the Skift Aviation Forum. For those of you in the audience that aren't familiar with Breeze and with Porter, you're very different airlines. I'm sure you'll tell us over the next 25 minutes why you're different airlines, but you have something in common. You have a sort of common thread, if you like, and that's a sort of challenger mentality. Angela, what does that mean to you in practice?
Well, Breeze was launched in May of 2021 in the middle of a global pandemic. So for one, we're just crazy. And so once you kind of set that standard for what crazy looks like, being a challenger kind of comes naturally to you. And I think there's a benefit to being a challenger because especially post-COVID, everyone's worlds were kind of overturned. And so the status quo of how you may travel or what you can perceive travel to be like changed drastically. So what we're able to come in and do as a challenger is to really just dig into where people are telling us they want now and build a product that really meets their needs. And then it also allows us to be extremely flexible and nimble. We move very fast, we test things, we fail, we try again. And I think that we have that luxury just being young as well as being a challenger.
A lot of themes there that we'll unpack, I'm sure. Kevin, what does it mean to you to be a challenger airline?
Well, Porter was a challenger when it started in 2006. At that time, Porter was focused on a home base at an underused airport at that time in the city of Toronto in downtown.
Billy Bishop,
Toronto City Airport. And we built a pretty significant franchise at that airport and became quite known as the best way to get to downtown Toronto. And we built our network over the years and became quite successful with challenging the marketplace with a very niche offering in that opportunity to travel to downtown Toronto. COVID created an opportunity for us to reinvent our model. And as a result of that, during COVID, we actually placed an order for up to 100 Embraer E195 E2 aircraft, and we're now the launch airline of that aircraft in North America. And so, in 2023, we launched our first flight, and we are now expanding across North America as a result of the E2. The first year was really about challenging the marketplace. There are two dominant carriers in Canada, unlike the United States, which is a very different marketplace. Porter pre-growth was about 3% of the domestic share. And so we had a significant amount of growth ahead of us as we challenged the dominant carriers. So we grew about 188% capacity in year one as a result of the deployment of 29 E2s in 1 year.
188%?
Yep.
Wow.
29 aircraft in year one. And so as we've continued to grow into this year, now we're expanding a lot into what's called the transborder market. And so we now have grown from about 3% of domestic market share to 12%. We're about halfway through the delivery of our aircraft. So we have a lot more runway ahead of us as we think about how we will challenge the marketplace. But we are definitely challenging the duopoly of Canada today.
Some phenomenal numbers there. Growing an airline isn't easy. It's even harder, though, when you've got a sort of secret sauce, a sort of distinctive culture that you're trying to be distinctive in the market and bring to that market. Angela, when you're growing at scale and at pace, how do you keep what was unique about the company to begin with and what may have attracted some of your customers early on?
I think part of it is you just have to first of all, you have to be consistent, you have to be efficient, and you have to give them the flexibility and the comfort that they want. And we now have grown to 66 markets across the US, and we're showing no signs of slowing down. I think we'll have about 40 aircraft by the time we end this year, and have flown 6 million people. And so even though we're young and we're just getting started, we are finding that we're starting to hit our pace as far as what guests actually are looking for. And so we're building a product experience that we think meets that need. And I think too that when people are looking for travel solutions, they're not looking for kind of a boxed approach anymore. So we are really looking at what a kind of create your own adventure looks like for an air traveler and allowing them to curate an experience that meets their needs.
And Kevin, how do you balance growth with keeping those core values distinctive?
I think our growth is a little different in that we actually started with a pretty significant franchise and a very strong brand in Canada. From our position pre-growth back in 2019, we were the number 2 carrier in every market that we served throughout Eastern Canada and to parts of the US. And so we had a very strong customer base. We also had a very strong managed corporate base. 60% of our revenue going into COVID was generated from business traffic. And so as we thought about growing the network, we started from that position of strength. And so as we challenge the marketplace, really we are tapping into a pretty significant existing customer base that understands the value proposition of what Porter has to offer, the unique onboard experience, the unique brand ethos that we offer. And so that creates a platform for us to launch growth. We're not starting in our growth as an unknown brand. We're started, frankly, as a beloved brand in Toronto and a known brand across Eastern Canada. And even as we expanded into the West, even though we had never flown to the West before, Western Canada, we had 30% of passengers who were traveling on us that had flown with us historically. So we had a customer base as this growth expanded.
Angela, Breeze describes itself as, quote, the seriously nice airline. How nice can you be whilst keeping an eye on that all-important bottom line?
Yeah, we over-index on the word nice, by the way. So our fares are nice, nicer, and nicest. Our tagline is seriously nice. Our purpose is nice people flying nice people to nice places. So we definitely take nice very seriously. And when you do that, when you say seriously nice, you mean you do it with intent. And I think we do it with intent in the way that we show up. And the way that we show up is that we have, flexible, friendly policies. For example, no change in cancellation fees, free family seating, and then we also have a range of product offering on board, ranging from our first class Breeze Ascent product to extra legroom, and then of course standard as well. So it's really about that combined with a nonstop, very efficient network, running an on-time airline with really great people who love what they do and want to serve you on really beautiful aircraft. We have an A220 fleet primarily, and so you combine it all together, and I think it definitely makes for a seriously nice recipe.
I still see, even though you're getting relatively established now, people describe Breeze as a ULCC.
I know, we're not.
What's going on? Why do you think there's an image perception?
We're actually an NLCC. What does N stand for? nice low-cost carrier. So I coined my own phrase, and we use it because I would say that we are more of a hybrid kind of carrier, but I also think that this premium leisure low-cost sector is one that we've seen today is just expanding greatly. And Breeze is really at the forefront of that. And so I want to see us kind of continue to lean into that. And it's really more about giving people the options they want. If they want to buy the base fare, which we call no flex, and then they want to get a first class seat for $120 more, be our guest.
I was hoping you were going to go from nice to nasty with that.
Yeah, it was in the brainstorm, but we thought that was a little bit too much. But we definitely do want people to have that freedom to create their own experience, as I said.
Do you think even a savvy modern customer, do you think they're quite pigeonholed and thinking this is a legacy carrier, this is a LCC, this is a ULCC? They haven't really quite got their head around the concept of a new age hybrid airline?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what we're seeing, but I also am witnessing just how quickly they are waking up to the realization that there is, a new airline in town, and especially one that flies from these convenient airports that are in their backyard. So to be able to show up at a secondary airport that has very limited small lines and free parking, and then you're jumping on and you're getting there, and you just had to fly through a hub, and you're sitting in a nice seat, and you're having a snack. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Sounds nice.
Wi-Fi.
A reminder, you know the drill by now. If you've got any questions for Angela and Kevin, get on the Skift app. We'll try and take as many as we can towards the end of the session. Just sticking with you briefly for one more moment, Angela. You have a high number of very seasonal routes. All airlines have seasonal routes, but Breeze in particular, you might be there for 4 months at a time, 5 months at a time, and then not back until next year. How do you build that brand loyalty, that recognition, when you're maybe here today and gone tomorrow?
Yeah, network planning really likes to make it a challenge. I think it's really about you have to create fans of the brand, and I think because we are primarily a leisure carrier, that means that people have expendable income and they want to travel and they want to go places. And sometimes if they may find you through an OTA or through Google Flights because they're going to a certain destination, they experience your product, they love it. And I get off a plane and I fly Breeze and people walk off and you know the first timers because they're like, wow, that was nice.
Yep.
Then you start serving them up with other options to go other places, and our route network does switch kind of north, south, west, east over the course of the year. But if you know enough about them, and we have a lot of data on kind of the types of things and the types of travel they want to have, then we're able to kind of create that incremental trip. And if we can create that incremental trip, that's great. And we launched a credit card. So we have that going for us too.
Okay. And Kevin, you've taken a different approach. You are much more year-round, more business-focused in the markets you serve. Could you ever see yourself, maybe not going full Breeze, but more of a seasonal model for some of your markets, or hyper-seasonal?
Well, we are a business airline at our DNA because of the roots of where we started. That does not mean that we also don't serve leisure markets. Of course that we do.
Sure.
But the way that we compete domestically, and even in the transborder markets, is we build in frequency into our markets. At the peak pre-COVID, we had some of our core markets in our regional network that had up to 19 departures a day, Toronto to Ottawa as an example, New York, 13 flights a day. We were well known for high frequency. It's what attracted business travelers to us. And so we go into markets, at a minimum, we start with a single daily. It depends on how the network profile is shaping up at that time. But we go in with multiple frequencies. We think the Embraer 195 is the perfect aircraft for us because it allows us to go in with that frequency, or it allows us to go into thinner markets with a single frequency to start and build from there. Doesn't mean we don't do 3, 4, 5 day a week. We may do that if we're short on aircraft as we're ramping up markets. We may also do that in shoulders. But as a general rule, we like to go into a market, minimum single daily. We like to build multiple frequency. That's what attracts the business traveler to us within an economy segment. And then it also then rounds out leisure from there.
And I've often heard Porter used as an example of the premiumization of economy travel. Do you recognize that description of your business?
Well, I mean, yeah, when you think of where we started, in the very early days of Porter, call it 2006, 2007, we served free beer and wine in glassware, coffee in China, meals on board, even on a quick flight to Ottawa. We opened a lounge in Toronto City Airport where people had complimentary coffee and snacks pre-boarding. Now, as the business model has evolved, some of that has been retained and is core to the value proposition of what the airline offers today. So even today across North America, we serve free beer and wine to all passengers. We do that in glassware for all passengers. Selection of free premium snacks. All passengers on the E195 have free fast Wi-Fi as well. And we worked with Viasat to make sure that our passengers had streaming at-home quality internet when they fly with us. One of my favorite stats is that when you're on a Porter flight, you actually have more internet sessions than you do passengers because people are doing exactly what they do at home. Computer, iPad, phone, that's what people do on board the aircraft. So we have been an elevated economy brand since our beginning. It is what we are launching across North America with now. As a result of that, we're garnering pretty significant praise from our customers. Again, the Canadian landscape is very different from the United States. There's 2 dominant carriers. We know from significant market research those dominant consumers in Canada are eager for an alternative, especially in economy. And so when you give them an economy experience that is a good experience, humanizing experience, they're eager to try it. Then you give them that experience and they stick around.
Is it still economy though? Glassware, free beer and wine?
It is for us, yes, it is for Porter. But people often say, how can Porter do free beer and wine and glassware? Do people come for the free beer and wine and glassware? Our brand is so much bigger than free beer and wine and glassware. The thought that someone could just add free beer and wine to their network and think that's going to change their brand, absolutely not. That is who we have been from the beginning. Our market research says the reason why I love Porter is because I can tell that your team members love their job. That resonates to the consumer. They also love the fact that we treat every single passenger on board our aircraft well. Doesn't matter whether you're in our loyalty program or not. Doesn't matter what fare you purchased. Everyone gets treated well. And so I think within the economy segment of the market, that is a premium experience. It's not what people are used to when they're traveling in economy today on most carriers.
It's the sort of stuff that probably a number of different airlines when they're starting out will look and say, right, let's try and have a few little trimmings here, let's keep that. And then as the business model gets worn down and the accountants come in the finance teams, right, we'll cut that, we'll trim that. Right. Have you identified certain parts of what you offer in this elevated premium economy experience that are absolutely untouchable to the core?
Free beer and wine and glassware.
Free beer and wine and glassware.
But I say that because I told you about the product amenities that we offered when we started as a carrier in 2006.
Yeah.
Not all those products are still around today. We went through some of those similar issues as you're optimizing the business. You start to figure out what are you doing really well and what do you need to make sure that is core to the brand, and what are other elements you're really just wasting your money on some pieces of it. And so we know what resonates for our customers. And again, it isn't just the free beer and wine. That is part of a much bigger brand experience. It's a feeling that you get when you travel on Porter that doesn't just get boiled down to one single product attribute.
I have a Canadian relative who said, yes, Porter's very good. It's just that the rivals, they shall remain nameless, just aren't very good. Are you benefiting from the fact that you've got subpar competition in the marketplace, plus you're actually a little bit better than the norm?
Absolutely. When you have two competitors who consumers are very eager to not fly, then that allows you to come into the marketplace and say, come give an alternative a try, which they do, and then they fly the experience and they come back. I was just actually out in Vancouver a couple weeks ago. I was boarding a flight with some of our team members, and I had a passenger who said, I'm flying Porter for the first time today. I can't wait to see what all the buzz is about.
Okay.
That's what it's about, because people are flying on you. They go home and say, hey, I just flew Porter for the first time. You got to give them a try. That's what helps grow the business. It's why our Net Promoter Score is so critical to us. It's why our customer satisfaction is so critical to us. And we watch very closely what drives those numbers, because that is the first time trying us, that's the coming back. And that's how we're going to be able to succeed in our growth plan.
Angela, at the start of our conversation, you highlighted the ability to be digital first and to do things in a more nimble way than maybe some of the legacy carriers, to put it politely. You don't have a telephone call center, which is maybe something that you would associate with an airline. You've got a guest empowerment team.
Yep.
Is Breeze an airline that, I'm thinking maybe my grandmother, she's not as tech literate, she maybe doesn't know how to use an app. Is Breeze an airline for her? Are you alienating potentially quite a large portion of your potential market?
I don't think so. And actually, our demographics do tend to be a little bit older. And so what we have seen, though, and I think, honestly, this is a benefit of COVID, that people all kind of became more tech savvy, right? We all were suddenly ordering groceries online. I'd never really done that, right?
We all learned what a QR code was.
Oh my gosh, the QR code, man, had its day. So I think that we also came around at a time when people were more willing to accept it. You don't call Uber, right? People do adjust. That being said, I mean, we definitely have our fair share of critics when it comes to not reaching someone on a call center. So I would say never.
Sure.
The benefit, obviously, of having, and these are, our Get team is a bunch of amazing people who are, in Provo, Utah. We're based in Salt Lake City, and they're at their homes in Provo mostly. And so it's a real person, right? You're not sitting there talking to a bot. And so they're trying to help you get to the solution. But the great thing about it is, because we built such a cool, slick technology, we want people to learn how to use it and to get comfortable with it. So it's our first job is to teach you how to self-serve. So whether or not you're comfortable with it or not, the Get team member can help walk you through it over text, right? But ultimately, it's going to solve 95% of what you needed to. So if you can get them there, then the next time what we see is that they're doing it themselves. So since we've started, and we've seen, obviously we see all of the inbound to our Gladly team, or our Get team that uses Gladly, and it's remained flat, even though we've continued to grow at such a rapid pace, which means that people who, especially repeat guests,
Sure.
are just learning how to self-service. So although we may never say never, I would say that we're definitely going to continue down this path of more tech-focused, more tech-first.
And Kevin, you're very proud of your Embraer fleet, rightly so, but you've also got the Dash 8, the Q400s. How do you manage customer experience, the continuity of product across two very different aircraft? Yeah,
when we started in 2006 from the Toronto, Billy Bishop Toronto City Airport, we fly the Dash 8 Q400 turboprop. no jets are allowed at the island airport, and so as a result of that, that is the fleet that is dedicated to that airport, but then flies to other markets as well. The beauty about that aircraft is it is a 2x2 configuration on the Dash 8. As I said, the product attribute is the same, the free beer and wine and glassware and snacks. But I say that because then you bring on the E2. What's great about the E2 is a 2x2 configuration. And so it allows us to say the exact same thing no matter what aircraft you're flying on Porter, you will never have a middle seat in economy. And so it creates a consistent value proposition around no middle seats, free beer and wine, glassware, snacks, every Porter flight. The only component that becomes different is the E195 has Wi-Fi on it, which the Dash 8 doesn't. I've even talked to customers as they've boarded the E195 who have known us quite well as part of the Dash 8 fleet, and I say, when you step on the jet, does it feel like Porter when you step on the plane? The answer is yes, and they do, because the interior of the aircraft, similar configuration, obviously larger, but what you love about it is consistent. So we're very lucky in that we have 2 fleet types. As a passenger, it has a very similar feel. Obviously, turboprop is different than a jet, has a different footprint, different reason why we fly the aircraft. But passengers like the consistency between that.
Lots of questions coming in. There's still a few minutes. If you've got any final questions for Angela and Kevin. There's been a lot of business model shifting in the US market of late. We've seen some decades-old business models almost torn up overnight. Some low-cost airlines, ultra-low-cost airlines, having more of a premium feel, or at least they will in the coming quarters. Does that worry you that they might start to tread on traditional Breeze territory?
It's very flattering. So I think it remains to be seen. It's actually my job and the job of my team members to just continue to make Breeze as best as it can, so people will seek us out, right? So there's always going to be competition. You're always going to be competing against price and schedule, and that's never going to go away. So no matter what gets added in, whether it's premium seating or Wi-Fi or beer and wine and glassware, I think we still have to be Breeze, right? And as long as we know who we are and we're able to be transparent with our guests and they know what to expect and they come to love us, then I think that we'll be, able to, kind of keep our growth and keep scaling.
Thank you. We've got a question about Porter's partnerships, and you got a very high profile one with Air Transat. That's maybe one, even speaking personally, I wouldn't have naturally put together a few years ago. There's a question here, nearly a year in, how is Porter's partnership with Alaska Airlines going, and how do you see that evolving from a loyalty standpoint? I mean,
airline partnerships are very important to our strategy as we expand. We have a number that we had a number before we started growing, but we did launch the joint venture with Air Transat, another Canadian carrier, but with zero overlap in our network as a general rule. And so it allows for a very nice connectivity between us. But yes, we have a relationship with Alaska, but we do with JetBlue as well, and other carriers. We will continue to expand the roster of carriers that we partner with. That will expand into loyalty, earn, and redeem as well. You'll see that come in 2025 as well. So Alaska is just one of many that you'll see us partner with.
Are you able to quantify the importance of partners to your overall business?
Absolutely. As of today, about 9% of the traffic moving across the Porter network is a result of some of our partnerships. And again, partnerships are early stage because we are in the process of becoming IOSA certified, which will then allow us to greatly expand our code share relationships, which are frankly stacking up on the runway, if you will, waiting for that certification, which would then allow us to rapid fire a lot of those code shares. So we will see that grow substantially. And again, that's traffic that we otherwise wouldn't get. We don't code share into markets that we otherwise would be serving, right? So 9% traffic is brand new traffic across the network.
Kevin, Porter's recently gone transborder. There's a question here for Angela. Does Breeze have any plans to expand into Canada?
Never say never, right? Yeah, we have announced that we have plans to go international, but we have not given exact specifics on that yet.
And what's holding you back from going international? Is it ETOPS? Is it regulations?
It's certification. So we've been working on that. And so as soon as that happens, which is imminent, then we'll be announcing our international service. Got it.
Another one here, maybe for you, Kevin. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a new entrant to the market? And maybe if we can open up that question, maybe you going to the West Coast for the first time as opposed to being a brand new airline.
I mean, I think I'm a little luckier than Angela is just because we are a well-established brand in Canada. And so for us going into new markets, the biggest challenge is always brand awareness. But as I said, even going into the west coast of Canada, we already had brand awareness because people in the west had either flown us in the east or they moved from Ontario or Quebec out west. So we were a known quantity in that sense. But I would also say our distribution strategy is a strength for us. We have full distribution in every GDS, every OTA, every travel agency. I mean, that has been critical to us as a business as a business carrier because of our corporate agreements. And so obviously OTAs are a big source of new customer acquisition as we enter into a new market. Brand awareness is your biggest challenge, but we have means to overcome that. And then once we get them on board the aircraft and we convert them into our loyalty program, we take it from there.
Just a final couple of quick fire ones if I can. Angela, how much of your business model is charter?
Actually a pretty significant part actually. We have found that we actually have the perfect size for college basketball.
Okay.
So we have had a lot of college basketball teams that have flown on us.
They appreciate the extra legroom?
Yeah, they do. They like the extra legroom for sure, and they probably fight over the first class. But yeah, we have had a sizable charter operation and continues to grow.
And finally, for both, if you could give me a very, very quick answer on this one. Does the aircraft size, small compared to mainline, provide a natural strength to your business model so you're not forced to, for example, try and fill an A321? Would you agree?
Yes, we love 132-seat aircraft.
We love 137.
137, 132. If I can just finish with one question from me. Give us a buzzword as you're entering 2025. How are you feeling?
Optimistic.
Kevin?
Optimization.
There we go. Thank you both for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.